All right, everyone. This is something that we talked about yesterday briefly on the Quartercast, actually, which is the differential between where Trump seems to be leaning and where J.D. Vance seems to be leaning with regards to J6 pardons. Now, I've said that the ultimate solution would be docket everything before you get into office. Get the executive order, the pardon ready. It would be a blanket pardon for people under certain offenses. Based on a case-by-case basis. That's what you should do. It seems that that's not actually in the works. It should be. The paperwork could be written up literally in the next couple of days. It wouldn't take very long for people to go through and say, okay, this person literally just entered the Capitol. There's literally nothing wrong with what they did, yet they've been held in jail for several years. That person decided to hit a cop in the head with an iron rod. Maybe we don't want to pardon them. Absent that kind of organizational capacity, because it seems not to be happening, I would say issue a blanket pardon. I agree with Donald Trump, not with J.D. Vance on this issue. I don't have a big problem with J.D. Vance. I think he was a sane choice for a running mate. Maybe not the best. There were other people that I would have preferred, but decent. Okay. Definitely better than fucking Mike Pence, so give him credit where credit's due. That being said, though, he's wrong on the J6ers. When you say a person has been they've alleged that they've committed a violent crime, so we're not going to pardon them. Number one, this is just an allegation, not a conviction. Number two, you've got artificially upgraded charges in many of these cases. The fact that somebody hurled a handful of confetti at a police officer does not mean that they're guilty of simple assault. It does not mean that if they've spent several years in prison that they shouldn't have time served and at least get their sentence commuted. What I would do, if I were Donald Trump, is just a blanket pardon. Honestly, I would just say fuck it. I would do a blanket pardon, get them all out of jail, and then I'd have them at a little meeting, and I would make sure that it was live televised, by the way. And have a little bit of a meet and greet and treat them to some good food, because if you've ever had food in jail, you know what I'm talking about, especially in New Orleans. It's funny, you go to New Orleans and the food is absolutely excellent. Like, it doesn't matter where you go. Literally everything is tasty. If you go to jail in New Orleans, don't expect there to even be salt on the fucking food, asshole. You get shit for dinner. Almost literally. The grits were not exactly restaurant quality. That was my experience. I think that you should just issue a blanket pardon at this point. I mean, if you're not going to do the organizational thing, if you're not going to go through case by case before you get into office, because he's sworn that he's going to pardon people on day one. Ulbricht, we know, is one as well, the Silk Road founder, and he's said he's going to pardon the J6ers. We're not sure exactly what form that is going to take. Is it a blanket pardon? Is it case by case, etc.? While I would prefer case by case, because some of those people did actually commit legitimate crimes and do actually deserve to be punished for having done so. It did become an unlawful assembly, but most of them were literally just there to take selfies. They were waved into the Capitol. The second that the police opened the doors and said, you know, we can't deal with this, so just come on in, nobody who entered that building, if they didn't break a window, that's vandalism. If they didn't spray paint graffiti, vandalism. If they didn't assault an officer, well, that's assault, potentially battery or something else, attempted murder in some cases. If they didn't do anything other than walk through the goddamn rotunda, why are they still in jail? Most of these people have taken plea deals already. They said, okay, I can spend tens of thousands of dollars and years of my time litigating, or I can cut my losses, go to jail for a brief period, or maybe just pay a fine, and do a struggle session, effectively say, I'm so sorry, I did so wrong, I was part of an insurrection, and then I can go on my merry way. This has happened to hundreds and hundreds of people so far. I've actually heard from a couple of the J6ers. It's literally struggle sessions. It's like being in communist China or the Soviet Union or something like that. And I'm sure I'm not the only creator probably who's gotten communiques from some of these people. Many of them did nothing wrong, but they settled out because they're like, look, I've got a family to take care of, I've got a job that I've got to go to, I've got a life. I would really rather not sit and rot in jail for the next several years. Some of them have stubbornly refused to take any sort of plea deal. I have enormous respect for them, and I think that Donald Trump should pardon them. Just pardon them all. Will the liberal media rake you over the coals? Yeah, they're going to say that you're a terrible person. Oh my God, he's pardoning the insurrectionists. They're going to do that regardless of what happens. They're automatically going to rake you over the coals politically. You're Donald Trump. So there's nothing to be gained by not simply issuing a blanket pardon at this point. I think a blanket pardon would be more appropriate. If you're not going to go through it line by line and case by case, look at all of the dockets of hundreds and hundreds of people, just issue a blanket pardon. I would say, while, again, going through line by line would be the best solution, because there are a handful of people there that did commit meaningful crimes, it would be better to just pardon everyone than to pardon nobody. And Trump did promise that he will issue pardons in the J6 case. My hope is that it's just a blanket pardon. Anyone who participated in potential alleged criminal activity that day, they're free to go. That's what I would do. Don't even do commutations. Even for violent crimes. I disagree with J.D. Vance. Because again, you can have artificially upgraded charges. And people don't realize this. The legal system is not the justice system. It's the legal system. A person can do something fairly innocuous, but the state decides for some reason they don't like them. And so they upgrade the charge to make their lives miserable or to make money off of them. You know, hiring a lawyer is not cheap. You should see the amount that I had to pay my lawyer in New Orleans, for example. It's very expensive. Most people can't stomach the cost. When they see how much money they owe, and especially if they can't get bail, you know, in some cases these people, non-violent crime but you're held without bond. It makes absolutely no sense. Should be unconstitutional, by the way. Trump should probably address that separately as well. Some of these people are paying tens of thousands of dollars because they walked into a building. This is unacceptable. At that point, I have to side squarely with Trump, who seems to lean towards wanting to simply issue a blanket pardon, and against J.D. Vance. Again, I will give Vance a chance, but he is wrong on this particular issue. If you're being persecuted by the political elite and by the moneyed power structure that exists, to the point where if you defended the J6ers for a while, you could get banned off of YouTube and shit, then I would say maybe you should strike back. Maybe you should strike back by freeing them all, make it very symbolic, make it very ceremonial, make sure that you get it in front of the U.S. people and say, look, here's Miss Alma Smith, here's Jane Doe. She walked through a building briefly and took a selfie. She's been in jail for 3 years, and stuff like that. You could grandstand. You could make it a political campaign pitch. Trump can't run again. J.D. Vance certainly can, and I don't know exactly what his strategy is in saying that they're going to pick through and not pardon certain J6ers. Just pardon them all. That's the best thing to do. And then grandstand about it. Give them McDonald's. Trump seems to be fond of that, so it'd be hysterical. That's about all. Peace out.